When a cry for help is ignored by authorities, it's only a matter of time before a tragedy takes place. Especially if there was not one, but multiple moments in which help was openly denied. This is what happened to 19-year-old Shana Grice. As soon as she started going out with Michael Lane, she noticed their story was far from being a fairy tale. But when she decided to end things, he began stalking and harassing her. Despite going to the police for help on multiple occasions, the system didn't give her the protection she needed, going as far as to even fining her for wasting police time. Being left completely alone to deal with her stalker, Shana Grice was eventually murdered by Michael Lane. It was only after it was too late that authorities began digging into the evidence that proved that this was a tragedy waiting to happen since the first day Shauna had tried to ask the police for help. This is the tragic story of Shana Grice. Shana Grice was born in 1997 in Portslade near Brighton in the United Kingdom. When she was attending Hove Park School and studying for her GCSEs, she started dating Ashley Cook, who was in some of her classes. The couple were happy and excited to spend their life together, even talking about getting married in the future. After her exams, Shauna started looking for jobs. At only 18 years old, she landed a job as a receptionist at a local Brighton company that sold and installed fire alarms. It was a simple job, but Shauna was great at it. She was a quick learner, she was caring with customers, and she was friendly with co-workers. She was doing great. Shortly after beginning her job at Brighton Fire Alarms, Shauna got close to one of her co-workers, one of the mechanics named Michael Lane. Michael was from the area as well, but their age difference meant they hadn't been involved in the same circles. He was 26 years old, 8 years older than her. They became quite close until they took things to the next level and started going out. However, Shauna was still dating Ashley Cook, her former classmate, so Michael became a secret relationship she had to keep. And perhaps it was that secret that meant that Shauna couldn't openly share just how wrong things started to go with Michael after a few weeks. Although their first months together were filled with presents and romantic gestures, Michael quickly started to show a dark side of him that made Shauna very concerned. He became controlling, obsessive even, and wanted to know where Shauna was at all times. The 18-year-old grew tired of this behavior and decided to end their secret relationship in December of 2015. Had she moved around in other circles, she would have found out that Michael had quite a history around Brighton. He had been accused several times of being controlling, exhibiting violence and harassment, unsolicited texting, and other forms of abusive behavior against multiple women. He had even been arrested in 2010 under suspicion of grooming a minor. The charges for this arrest were later dropped, but it went on his record. Another woman accused him of stalking her for years, even sending her pictures of her building as he waited outside for hours on end. So when Shauna decided to call things off, she was unaware of who Michael really was, and Michael was not willing to let Shauna go. On her 19th birthday, he sent her flowers to work after she'd asked him not to contact her, a gesture she deemed so uncomfortable she even contacted her boss about it. Another day, her car tires were mysteriously slashed, only to find that Michael was in the area, offering help to take her car to be fixed. Although she was trying to move past their short affair, he kept appearing in her life outside of work. That's when she increased efforts not to cross paths with him and block him out completely. Since contact with Shauna was not possible anymore, Michael grew angry and decided to contact Ashley, Shauna's boyfriend, to tell him about the affair, leaving a note in his car and keying the outside. However, Shauna had not confessed the affair to him and had presented Michael just as a co-worker who had an unhealthy obsession with her, an obsession that was now taking him to stand outside the home she shared with 2 roommates for hours, just waiting for her to come out and even striking her with her keys on one occasion. After the situation began getting more violent, Shauna took the difficult step of going to the police for help. On February 9, 2016, Shauna went to the police and told them she was being stalked and harassed by a co-worker. The police made a report and consulted with other co-workers, some of which expressed their concerns about Michael having an unhealthy obsession with Shauna. With this information, police decided there was no evidence of harassment and just warned Michael to keep out of Shauna's way. No background check for previous similar offences, no restraining order, no further action taken. 19-year-old Shauna's first attempt at getting help had been shut down completely. Of course, Michael's behaviour only got worse. After an office party in March, Shauna went home only to find Michael there waiting for her with her roommates, asking for her. When she saw him, she decided to turn around and go to her boyfriend's house, but Michael caught up with her and physically assaulted her. Someone was driving by and saw the whole thing, as Michael ran off and took Shauna to Ashley's house. Once there, she told Ashley and his parents about the attack, and they decided to call the police. Police officer Trevor Godfrey went to Ashley's house to take Shauna's statement the next day. However, Ashley was in the room while Shauna gave her statement. Because her boyfriend was sitting right next to her, Shauna didn't feel comfortable sharing the true nature of her relationship with Michael and stated he was just a co-worker instead of an angry ex-boyfriend. When police talked to Michael about Shauna's accusations, he told them they were in fact a couple and showed them text messages they'd exchanged. Officer Godfrey decided that Shauna was trying to hide the fact that she was having an affair by falsely reporting harassment, and he did not think she was in any kind of danger. To make things worse, a few days later, Shauna was notified about a £90 fine she would be receiving for, quote, wasting police time. Once again, she was left to face her stalker alone, so she turned to her friends and family. She was always with someone, she constantly checked in via messages or calls, and she even quit her job to try and minimize contact between her and Michael. However, the further away she moved from him, the angrier he got. Michael would text her obsessively, even threatening to kill himself because of her. Struck by guilt and completely vulnerable to his manipulation techniques, Shauna decided to leave Ashley and give her and Michael another shot. However, not long after starting their relationship, Michael's behavior hadn't changed, and Shauna left him and quickly made up with Ashley, whom she was really in love with. But during the time they had been together, Michael had acquired a copy of Shauna's house key. So on July 8th of 2016, at around 6 in the morning, he used that key to let himself into the bungalow she shared with her roommates. Shauna heard the door of her room open and instantly knew it was him. Her survival instinct kicked in, and she pretended to be asleep in hopes that he would leave. After a few minutes, she heard the front door again, and peering through the window, she saw that it was in fact Michael who had just let himself into her house and bedroom. Completely in shock, she called Michael the next day and recorded the call for evidence, since at this point she knew the police wouldn't believe her if she just told them.
One question that's really bugging me. Why did you take the key in the first place?
I wanted to see you.
Yeah, but that...
I wanted to see you and properly talk to you, and I knew you wouldn't let me in otherwise.
Yeah, but that's not good because it's putting us in danger. You could have flipped at any point. What about
No, I wouldn't have flipped.
What about if I took someone home or something, and then you came in and saw that I was with someone else?
I just would have left.
Well, but you left anyway.
Yeah, I know I did.
But it's just you had no right at all to.
I know I didn't. I know I've got no right or nothing. I know that.
Well, you need to apologise to the girls because it's out of order.
Yeah, I know. I just don't want any trouble because the last thing I want is to go prison and that.
Yeah. Well, just as long you just don't do it again. And if you come near the house again,
I won't come near the house again. I won't contact you again. Okay.
I think that's best because it's just going to keep on going around this vicious circle, isn't it?
After the call, Shauna decided to contact the police anyway, and Michael was arrested under suspicion of stealing her key and breaking into her house. This time he was officially charged for harassment, but no further protection was issued for Shauna, since she was considered a low-risk case. In the days after he had broken into her house, Michael called Shauna obsessively through unknown numbers, and then kept silent on the line. He also followed her while she was driving, and even sent her letters asking for money. But once again, no further action was taken against him. By then, Shauna had stopped contacting the police, despite her family and friends asking her to report all incidents. But after all the failed attempts at getting help, and the humiliation the officers had put her through by accusing her of making it all up, Shauna trusted nobody and simply gave up asking for help. On August 23, 2016, Shauna and Michael met in person to put an end to this nightmare. Shauna implored Michael to leave her alone. She couldn't handle this anymore. Humiliated by her words, Michael spoke to a friend and mentioned that Shauna would pay for everything. So the next day, he woke up early and got dressed in a disguise. He made his way straight to Shauna's house, knowing that by 7:30 a.m. she would be home alone. Grabbing a knife from the kitchen, Michael entered Shauna's room and slit her throat. He then stole her wallet with her credit cards and left the house. After taking £60 out with Shauna's card, Michael poured gasoline into a bottle and drove back to Shauna's and set the crime scene on fire. Then, he drove back home. When she was late for work hours later, who knew what Shauna was going through with Michael, called Ashley. He was at work himself and immediately sensed something was wrong, so he called his sister Amy, and she and her father drove to Shauna's house, only to find a bloody footprint on the doorstep and smoke coming from inside the house. They immediately called the police, and Ian, Ashley's father, broke into the smoke-filled house and found Shauna face down on her mattress, covered in blood in between the flames. When the emergency services arrived, Shauna was immediately pronounced dead. Family and friends were quick to point the finger at Michael, especially mentioning all the reports that Shauna had made, so Michael was arrested at the repair shop he was working in. From the moment he was arrested, he insisted he knew nothing about Shauna or her murder.
Shana Grice was found dead in her bedroom. Tell me what happened to her.
I don't know.
Well, when her body was found, it was clear that someone had assaulted her, and they'd tried to set fire to her body. So tell me what you know about what happened to her yesterday.
I only know what I've been told since being in here.
During that first interview, police had not yet recovered enough evidence linked to Michael, so he was released temporarily. Then police started gathering new evidence and interviewing neighbours, and Michael was caught in numerous lies. A woman had spotted him disposing of evidence in a nearby road. Police found the shoes Michael had been wearing at the crime scene. The shoes matched the footprint on the door and had Shauna's blood on them. CCTV also showed Michael at the ATM taking out some cash, which matched the time of the withdrawal on Shauna's bank records. He was also seen filling a can of gasoline. And of course, there were all of Shauna's previous reports and harassment complaints. Although discarded initially, they were now a key part of the case against Michael, who kept changing his story with every new piece of information the police uncovered. In a last attempt at appearing innocent, Michael told officers that he had been at Shauna's house on the morning of her murder, but she was already dead when he walked in the room. He claimed he had decided against reporting what he saw because he was worried that the police might think it was him who killed his ex-girlfriend.
Okay, so having had a moment, what do you want to tell us?
You ain't going to believe me, but it's up to you. In the morning, I did go to Shauna's. After I'd been to Valley Road shops,
Yeah.
and I was seen going back, parked up. When I went past her road, her car was still there,
Okay.
which I knew was odd because she was meant to be. I knew she had started work at 8:30, and that was about the time. It was about 20 past 8, so I knew she would have had to have left for work. So I went round, walked round there. The door was open. The front door was open.
Wide open or unlocked?
No, it was open. No, it wasn't wide open, but it was like half open. So I went in there. Her bedroom door was open, half open again, and she was on the floor.
Tell me about your thought process then, about what made you think, right, rather than just calling the police and the ambulance, I'm going to just leave.
Because I was scared. Because I didn't know what. You'd never seen a dead body. I didn't know what was going on. Didn't know.
Okay, so let's go with this idea that you're scared. Talk me through that. What were you scared would happen?
Well, the police would turn up and think that I did it.
However, despite this version of events, police had enough evidence to charge Michael with murder, arson, and theft. During his trial, Michael stuck to the version that stated he had found Shauna dead already. Throughout the court hearings, he continued to proclaim his innocence and said he had only kept silent out of fear that the police would accuse him. The jury, however, did not believe the story Michael was attempting to portray as the truth. Michael Lane was found guilty for the first-degree murder of Shana Grice and sentenced to life in prison. The handling of Shauna's case by the police was heavily criticized by the community, especially Shauna's family. She had trusted the police to help her, and she was turned away every time, not only ignoring her, but not taking her concerns seriously. Michael's records also proved this was something that was bound to continue happening, but nobody had taken that seriously either. A long investigation was opened in the Sussex police, which resulted in several officers being found guilty of misconduct, including Trevor Godfrey, the officer who had fined Shauna for wasting police time. Shana Grice's life was cut short by her stalker, but her chances of escaping her nightmare were reduced to zero when the police, the ones who were meant to keep her safe, not only ignored her, but even accused her of making everything up. A 19-year-old in an abusive relationship was left to her own devices, and despite the investigations or the changes made to avoid it happening again, Shauna will sadly not be here to see them. Thank you for watching. Here are some other videos you might find interesting. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.